Muchas gracias a todos por acompañarnos el día de hoy. Voy a pasarme la presentación al inglés para que nuestro amigo Joshua nos pueda acompañar y entender. Igual a lo largo de esta presentación, si alguien tiene alguna pregunta, nos la va dejando aquí puesta en el chat, que luego al final de la sesión vamos a compartir estas preguntas con Joshua para también hacer algo de discusión. Thank you very much. We are very happy today. Thanks for coming. I want to introduce to my friend and colleague and partner, Joshua Guarralte. Couple with months ago, Axon Marketing and Communication and Brazil International Public Relations Agency, based in London, created an integrated portfolio, basically to attend and support the destination to try and to grow in Europe. Now we are very happy. This is our first, but not the last activity together with Brazil. Joshua is the CEO. Joshua is working in the communication and public relations, corporate communication for destination for more 20 years. And we are happy to add to Joshua to our team in Axon. Joshua, thank you very much. Welcome. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Hola. I will now revert to English. I will, and any questions that you may have, we can put into chat or call us and also can answer them. So thank you very much. I'm based in London, and we cover as an agency most of Europe, helping lots of organizations, tourist boards, travel, hospitality brands to make a success in Europe. Today's short presentation is around European tourists. Are they ready to travel to Latin America? What are the things that you need to do or what you can do to take advantage of them? And hopefully today I'm going to just make you understand a little bit more about how people are thinking, where they're spending their money, how they're spending their money, and how you can possibly attract them to your destinations as well. Just in terms of today, I'll introduce myself. So like many people, a former journalist, TV, and also newspapers. And I've been running this company called Brazil PR since 2003. And I work with all kinds of organizations to help them make a success of it. My colleague, who is a real tourism travel expert, unfortunately, Laura couldn't make it today because she has a sick daughter. But she has more than 15 years in working with travel and knows every single journalist pretty much in the UK, which is very important for our job. And then there's Carlos. So I just wanted to just really briefly about why we're here together. So certainly, Carlos, would you like to just introduce Axon for anyone?
Yes, thank you, Joshua. We are artificial intelligence integrated marketing communication agency. We are focusing to create value, and we are developing a marketing communication and artificial intelligence model to position destination, attract the investment, and increase the tourism between Latin America, US, and now Europe.
And for us, we're very similar. So this is why we work well together. London is our hub, but we also cover most of the English language world, including the US, Australia, New Zealand, India, and various other destinations as well. But together, we have a very much an integrated portfolio to support travel brands and destinations with interest in Europe. So that's what we're here to talk about today. So enough about us, and we're gonna sort of talk about what the industry, what the market is like. Certainly from our research, we have a variety of different research tools. We know that LATAM is increasingly attractive to European travelers of all ages. This is hopefully something that's not new to you. But we see that there's a real shift in spending money, which I'll talk about, and also really authentic experiences that, there's only so much that Europe can offer to Europeans, because we live here, we have weekends away in France and Italy and Spain. There's not too many surprises, and people increasingly so, especially after COVID, want to get stories. They want to really experience life, to experience the world, to get away from cities, and also what we call the fly-in flops of just getting on an airplane and going onto a beach. They want to make the most of the time that they have off, or their breaks, or their retirement. So we think that, from our research, that LATAM is a destination, or destinations within LATAM, that are very attractive to Europeans of all ages and spending groups as well. So in terms of the stats, I think it's really good news, that travel in Europe, after 2 or 3 years where people were not spending any money in traveling, are spending more. And they're not just spending what they used to before, they're actually saving up for bigger trips, for long haul trips as well. So we see a 13% increase on overall tourism leaving Europe. So that's European spending money outside of Europe. So that's a big number, in all fairness, and it's something that I think we need to think about. The increase in foreign visits to Europe as well, going both ways, is really important as well. But the fact is that travelers have been saving money over the last 3 or 4 years, because travel has been either prohibited, or people are still not, just building up their confidence again that they can travel to other countries. So, this excess of people saving their money is very interesting indeed. And, where LATAM comes in is this diverse, authentic experiences. Europe, I don't know if you've read the news, but the over tourism of so much of Europe is becoming a real problem. People going into Barcelona are being charged more money. There's a lot of protests about cities and destinations letting too many tourists in. And this is also being quite prohibitive to people going to European destinations, because at the end of the day, they're going on vacation. They want a good time. They don't want hassle. They don't want to be charged to enter public parks. They don't want to be in huge crowds as well. And that's where I think a lot of destinations in LATAM can really cut through the noise and attract people, because they're looking for alternatives. So great news on that front. We also see just generally the mentality of Europeans. Now, of course, not all Europeans are different, with 30-something countries in Europe, all with different languages and cultures and thought processes. But generally speaking, the numbers say that people are not spending money on material goods. So when you think about it, they're not buying cars anymore. They're no longer buying CDs or DVDs. They're not buying houses, certainly in certain countries where the housing market used to be attracting buyers as opposed to renters. So that means that they have more disposable income for for experiences. And we call it here the experience economy, where people are prioritizing those stories and memories, the travel, the dining, the entertainment over these physical products. People are not as possessive, especially in Western Europe, as they are in other countries as well. So we're seeing an increase in spending of 22%, which is really good. This has been led by some of the younger generation, so Gen Z and millennials, are certainly leading this, but it is across most generations as well, that people just want to experience and have great stories and live their lives to their fullest. In Eastern Europe, maybe a little bit less so, but the shift is still, going, Eastern Europe, the countries such as Romania and Bulgaria and Lithuania, and Estonia, where there is a lot of disposable income. They are also slowly moving to more experiences as well. We expect them to be on par with the Western appetite for travel in the next 2 or 3 years. And, these are, fast growing, developing countries where the incomes are increasing all the time. And the cost of living there is a lot less than being in London or Paris or Berlin. So that means also they have a lot more cash to travel and to really experience things. I hope this all makes sense so far, and look forward to questions. Certainly when we go into the nitty-gritty of why people travel, what they're looking for, these keywords come into play. What are they looking for? They're looking for sustainable tourism. So, whereas a lot of Europeans would take short-haul flights, half an hour to an hour and a half to visit cities, they want to make the most of their flying. So it would be less of the short haul and 1 or 2 long haul trips a year, because of the sustainability. They worry about the environment and the carbon footprint of short haul flying as well. And also the price of short haul flying has gone up. But sustainable tourism is really important to so many more people in Europe now. And then there's the obvious things, like the cultural experiences. As I've said, they want stories to go back home and tell their family and tell their friends. A lot of that is around food and wine as well, that, Europeans have had a strong cultural base of eating, and they use travel to experience other cultures. So the food and the wine is really important these days, as is well-being. That since COVID especially, people are really in tune with trying to stay fit. They know that the responsibility is theirs to stay fit. So we're seeing a lot of people who are using travel to keep up their wellnesses. So they want to go to destinations where they can cycle, where they can experience things, running and hiking and swimming and sailing. And also spas, so certainly for all age groups, but specifically ones 50 years old plus, the well-being experience that they get abroad, no matter where they go, is really strong. And we're seeing a lot more consumer spending in the wellness spas and treatments and things like that as well. Again, that shift from the material goods of going shopping to buy a bag or a watch, and spending that money instead on wellness experiences, treatments and things like that as well. And then, of course, there's the inevitable safety, that people are always concerned about where they travel, and safety is a really important thing. So, amongst all these really amazing things, safety has to be one of those things that people tick the box. They're not going to take overt risks to go to certain places. And that's where I think that PR and communications really comes into place because, as you know, there's legacy interpretations of what safety is. At the moment where I am in London, it's not a particularly safe place, and it probably has a worldwide reputation of, do not wear your nice watches in London and things like that. And I think that's something that, whether it's true or not, it needs to be addressed. And then there's accessibility, that of mobility. People want to make sure that they are, in comfort, basically. So just to sort of go, into what they're looking, again, as I've said, experience is important, authentic things, also to think about the European summer, that it's getting hotter, it's getting, the city breaks, beaches are getting more and more crowded. So we're seeing that for next year, that more and more people will be taking their summer holidays, and people get 2 weeks to a month to look at non-European destinations. They still want nice weather, but they want to be in slightly cooler ones. And obviously, in South America, being winter when it's our summer is quite attractive to a lot of people. So that is another way of marketing to people, to explain what the benefits are to coming to LATAM destinations. And also, I mean, I think that, these days everyone in the world wants value for money, and again, they're probably not getting that value for money in a lot of European destinations because of the overcrowding, because of the demand. So I think that a lot of people who want that value, who are a little bit budget conscious as well, can really get value in other destinations outside of Europe, and that's what they're looking for. They don't want to be spending, $200 on a meal every single night, and there's a real resistance to doing that now. So people are looking further afield. So those are some of the triggers and stuff. And then, we curated, I mean, there are so many different things that people can do. And the way that we've always looked at this was that it only takes one or two things to get people excited about a country or a region or a specific city or town. So, highlighting, for instance, the one or two things that people would go to builds that sort of excitement, interest, and then ultimately the actual travel. And this is just a snapshot of things. So ranging from those adventure experiences, the mountain and trekking, the water activities, that are in every country, basically, and the cultural immersion. So exploring archaeological sites, historical sites, cultural sites is so important. The local aspects, that we as consumers in Europe drink coffee from LATAM, they drink wine, the food experiences that you get in big cities, from Argentinian steakhouses, Peruvian ceviche, are all over the place now, and people want to travel to find the sources of this. And it's very important for them that they consume the food and the wine in their cities and their countries, and they want to go to the source as well. And then, there's, of course, the nature and wildlife, and the higher end experience as well. Those eco lodges, the spas, fine dining, all those kind of things are a really important part of the communications of destinations can do to really attract Europeans. Right. So we've broken it down at the moment and did a little bit of research on the types of audiences that that could be coming to your destinations. And starting off with the younger people, I put these in euros, but it's approximately $1, so $1,000 to $1,500 for trip for the young adventurers that they would be spending on their week or two in LATAM. So they do want budget conscious. They seek authentic experiences. They want to, you know, eat and drink in local restaurants and bars. They want to go to museums. And again, it's all about the story. You know, from our research, that the top destination at this age group has been Colombia for a couple of years. But more and more countries are adding to that list that it's becoming a real lots of different destinations are on the radar of people under 24 years old. And these are typically either people in university or just finished university or taking a break between their first jobs and stuff like that. So they have a little bit of cash, you know, they're happy to spend it. They don't have as much as some of the older people, but they're still a very lucrative audience to attract. And then you get the millennials, you know, typically ones without kids. They're going on their trips before they have their families as well. And they too also want the experienced, value-seeking, trip. They spend a slightly more, you know, up to $1,000 more per trip. And they have been going various countries. Colombia is also up there, but Brazil seems to one that is attracting the more numbers at the moment. I don't know why. But also looking at the more natural aspects that millennials look for. Then we go to our older age groups, the family travelers. They're spending a fair bit more. So, you know, 2,500 to 3,500, and that's per person as well. So typically family travelers, you know, go in 3s, 4s, sometimes 5s as well. So there's a fair bit of money being spent when you lure them to your destination. They like a balance. They do want to chill out. You know, it's hard having small kids, as I'm sure that a lot of you will appreciate. So they want to have a little bit of downtime. So, you know, around the coast, beaches, resorts are quite important for them. You know, some of these all-inclusive ones are also really important. And, you know, they want that mix of things for the family and for the adults as well. And then you have the empty nesters or the Gen X globetrotters, so the slightly older demographic that are either still working or part-time working or even retired. You know, they're spending a fair bit more, you know, the sort of top range, so $4,000 or $5,000 per person per trip. You know, they want that cultural experience, they want that educational experience, and they also want it in comfort as well. So they're not going to be the ones that are backpacking or the ones that are going to be hiring caravans or trailers and things like that as well. I mean, this is not exact science. There's a couple of other demographics, but I just wanted to give you a snapshot of what they look like. And then we want to see like where they're spending, you know, what they're preferring. Now, obviously, you know, Europe is 40 countries, 750 million people, 24 languages. Yes, quite a few of them do speak English. That is the sort of natural, you know, aspect, you know, that people who travel will speak English more than anything. But, you know, at the end of the day, you have to cater to, you know, other countries where English might not be their first language or not speak it very well. You know, certainly we see a slight difference in attracting people from different countries. And we sort of just map this out a little bit as well. So as an example, you know, in Germany, younger people want that adventure in nature. Then as families, safety is that number one destination that they want. We can see, and no surprise to Italy, because food is such an important part of their culture, that both, you know, younger people and families and older people, that the gastronomy and wine is an important part of their experience wherever they go. And, you know, slightly older people, they want more of the architectural, historical, cultural sort of experiences. So, you know, if you're trying to attract that age demographic, then highlighting these types of attractions are going to be really important and successful in engaging with these audiences as well. Again, we just wanted to give you a flavor for this, and we can expand on this. It does get a bit complicated when you have 40 countries and they're all thinking and doing a little bit different things as well. But, you know, there's hopefully a common theme here that you can see, which you can play upon, because we, you know, at the end of the day, you can't have 40 different campaigns going to 40 different countries to try and attract people. It doesn't make sense. But you have to sort of play upon those big macro themes in order to attract people. So, you know, finally, we just wanted to say, well, how do you get to them? You have all these people and they're very diverse and they think differently. It can be very daunting to marketing them. There's no one size fits all, unfortunately. It doesn't work that way. So the first thing I think we recommend is you have to pick your demographics, you know, right, you know, who are you going to aim at, you know, and, you know, fortunately we have, you know, social media can be incredibly powerful to showcase your destinations, you know, and while things like TikTok still predominantly, you know, 30-year-olds and under that are using it, that more and more older people are using TikTok, as we've seen with Instagram and Instagram stories, that it's pretty much all age groups now. You know, it has becoming very common for people to follow destinations, follow influencers and things like that. So, pardon me, I just have to get some water. I'm losing my voice. You need one of these. So, you know, doing, you know, at the end of the day, there's unbelievably beautiful destinations, showcasing them on social media, doing things like virtual tours, live streams, are basic stuff that actually can attract a wide set of audiences. You know, absolutely, you need to pick your age group, you know, and might have different segments for each of them based on what they're interested in and how much they want to spend, because spending, you know, people need to know, you know, what a destination would cost. And people are very budget conscious, as you know, these days. We thought emphasizing eco-friendly tourism, that it is really important part of their decision making, that 80% from a recent poll said that ecotourism is really important. So, you know, it's something that you need to consider with your marketing and communications. And, you know, this also, you know, goes to the transportation, the hotels or lodges and things like that people would choose as well. But they basically, you know, it's become over the last few years a really important criteria. It's not just the location and the stories, it's also the infrastructure as well. So highlighting these things where you can, you know, can be very successful. We also, bear with me a second. Oops. So, you know, we also think, you know, showcasing this, you know, it makes perfect sense, but the rich history, diverse cultures, authenticity is the number one thing that you can't fake this. And the one thing, you know, that so many destinations in LATAM have is that authenticity, you know, amazing rich history and things like that. You know, obviously there's, you know, while it's mostly positive, you know, what you don't want to do is go into hiding, you know, when it comes to safety, that, you know, accurate information on these things to alleviate concerns is really important. So, like I've said, there's all kinds of false information, as you may know, and also misconceptions, generally speaking. So, you know, instead of brushing it aside, I think that destinations need to, where there is any sort of concerns, to really tackle these things, because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, hundreds of thousands of people coming to destinations in LATAM every year have an amazing, safe time. And I think that's, you know, a really important thing to communicate, you know, and to dispel some of the myths that that people may have. And then, so again, going more on the positive side of things, user-generated content. There are so many people, as I've said, hundreds of thousands, millions of people heading to your destinations every year. You need to encourage them to share their experiences. They are your influencers. People smiling, showcasing beautiful places, experiencing amazing different cultures, photos of life, of wildlife and things like that. Those help you to sell yourself, basically, and you need to harness that in different ways. Obviously, you as running tourist brands, in some way, SEO, search engine optimization, is incredibly important, to be prominent, to really to get people to consider your locations. The destinations that we work with in other regions spend a lot of money sometimes, or very smart about SEO, as we call it, and they really want to make sure that they're coming up when people are looking for cultural experiences or family experiences, that it really comes up up top on the Google searches. At the end of the day, photos of your destinations sell yourself. I don't need to tell you this, but the amazing pictures and experiences and smiles of people sells your locations. And looking for just ticking all the boxes that I've mentioned based on the demographics is really good. You just have to think about it. That's more than anything, and be quite focused and disciplined on the types of audiences, the types of people, the income groups that you want to attract to your destinations. And then, of course, like, what can you do? We have seen a lot of, I would say, marketing that could do better in Europe. And one of the things is that having these amazing images of locations, but not really showing. We've seen this in especially a lot of like Middle Eastern countries, where they have this amazing photograph, but all around it is poverty and things like that. I think that people can be very disappointed if you misrepresent photographs and things like that as well. So I think you have to be open and honest, and really pick and choose the locations, the regions, the cities, the towns, the villages that you want. The other things that we've seen is marketing to people where they show one particular group. You may think that Europeans are all wealthy and white, but they're not. We come in all colors and shapes and sizes, as I'm sure you appreciate. So the marketing has to show that as well, that the diversity of visitors, the diversity that you can offer as well, is very appealing and very attractive to European people. So the ad, the Brazil ad there, which is just not quite right in this day's market, that they want to see diverse people, diverse cultures, because you're attracting people from diverse cultures as well. And then, of course, that we have seen a lot of European campaigns, but it's a one size that fits all. It's not localized in any way. And I think that's one of my main points here, is that if you're going to attract 45-year-old Germans, you need to really use that messaging, to use those imagery in order to be successful. And then I think just avoiding stereotypes instead of general stories is also really important. But I think you probably get the drift of what I'm trying to say. Then finally, I think Axon and ourselves, we have a vast amount of experience working with destinations, with airlines, with tourism boards. And part of our skill is really curating the locations and experiences that will resonate and really engage with the right audiences as well. we're working with one in around Australia, and they want to attract a certain demographic, certain amount, certain types of people, certain volumes of people as well. So we have to be very fine-tuned in doing that. And then of course it needs to be localized as well. Also, we can, and that's where we come into play with different languages to understand the local markets, as I've demonstrated. And then, of course, influencers. That this amazing, relatively inexpensive. If you if you do your research, influencers can be really, really cost effective and powerful. You don't want to give trips to anyone who asked, and just because they have a million followers doesn't mean they're a good influencer. So I think part of our job is to really identify the ones that are going to make the most impact and the most desirable impact. And then there's sort of the nitty-gritty things that we do, such as organizing press trips, doing interviews, features on locations, and things like that, getting into the right European media, whatever that may be. And then, of course, management and support at fairs. There are a number of fairs for trade, for consumers, for the tourism industry, and we can help navigate which are the best ones. What you don't want to be is necessarily one of hundreds of organizations all saying the same thing as well. So we want to make sure that if you are investing in fairs, that you really have a cut through, that you really do stand out as well. So those are the kind of things that we can do. And that is it. So I hope, I can't see anyone's face, but I hope that everyone's still awake. We haven't bored you, and we look forward to your questions.
We're here. Thank you very much, Joshua. Very interesting. I have a couple of questions here. Thank you very much for the question, Jose Luis, Mariela, Diana. But now the first, I want to englobe three principal ideas and messages in the presentation, my friend. The first one is the experiences. Please don't forget the experience is very important. You need to create experience, authentic experiences, value money experiences, and memorable experiences. The other important question is the eco-friendly tourism. Remember, this mission is very important. And the first one is the content. We have a big challenge with the content. We need to think out the box. Joshua say us, we need to think out the box for the content. Okay. I started with a question, Joshua. I have the first question is we look at the data on the average spending. How many days do vacation trips last on average in Europe in Europe?
Yeah. So usually, starting now, we're in winter. People do have 2 weeks off between Christmas and New Year. And we're seeing more and more people taking those 2 weeks off and not spending Christmas at home. So they're looking at warmer locations. They're looking for sun. So there's two types of European, to categorize them, two types of what I call Christmas vacationers. Those are the ones who go skiing. That might be a bit more difficult. And there's the ones who go for the sun. And typically, they will go to Northern Africa, they will go to the Middle East, like Dubai, and they will go to the Caribbean and possibly further afield, like in Mexico or further parts of Latin America. Generally speaking, that's 2 weeks. So I should say as well that the average UK person gets 25 days holiday a year, and that's not including another 7 days of bank holidays. So Christmas, New Year, 2 days at Easter, things like that. So you're talking about 32 days that they have off in a year. And that's relatively low for Europe. That France, I think, get 32 days plus bank holidays. So you're talking about 35, 36 days a year holiday. So it's a lot, and like I said, the UK is one of the lowest, so at 25 days a year holiday. And then, so typically we would take a week to 2 weeks off at winter, Christmas. And then in the summer would be a 2 week holiday. The busiest times of the year would be the end of July, where schools break up. So people with parents will usually take 2 weeks, go somewhere, and then they'll come back and entertain their kids for another 2 weeks or so until they go to school. Then we have these midterm breaks, and there's 2 of them a year, and that's another week. So typically, people have 2 weeks, 10 days in the summer, 10 days around Christmas, and another 5 days around Easter, another 5 days around in sometime in October or so. So a lot of holiday.
Wonderful. Thank you, Josh. I have another question here. How to integrate the new technologies with the promotion of the new destination for the European travelers?
Yeah, I mean, virtual reality is certainly one of them, but the uptake on virtual reality is only going to be really attracting sort of some of the younger people, the gamers of this world. But I do think with technology, the use of just good, good video, whether it be on TikTok or Instagram stories and things like that, is going to be quite powerful. You can't be overtly fancy with technology in this marketplace, because you will alienate some people who are, late adopters. And as I've said, the sort of older generation that spend a lot of money are not going to really put on an AR headset to, to explore a specific region. But, using social media, not being too fancy, but social media does a pretty good job in attracting people.
Wonderful.
And in terms of AI, well, I'm not sure about that one yet. I don't think, I think part of being authentic, is it sort of goes against the AI aspect of it, I think.
Wonderful. I have a question about the money. Trade shows require a significant investment. What is your opinion on in-person formats in Europe? Are they effective, or it's only expensive?
Sorry, do you mind repeating the question?
It's usually the fair significant and investment,
Oh.
high invest. What is your opinion about the in-person formats in Europe? Are they
Yeah,
effective?
I totally agree. We were at the big one in London 3 weeks ago, the WTM, and there was it was impressive. I mean, we went on one of the Etihad airline stand, and they spent £10 million, on the stand. And I have to say that some of the destinations that were spending a lot less were absolutely outclassed, and probably still spending a lot of money, but not getting the visitors and attraction and attention of the ones that spent a lot of money. I think you have to be very careful with who's going through the doors. Are they the right people? Are you going to be just in competition with big Middle Eastern tourism boards that you're never going to win in terms of that? So I personally would err with great caution. You shouldn't just do it because everyone else is doing it. You do need to be very practical.
Joshua, Jose Luis have a question. He say, do you have any case studies about the Latin American destination in Europe? He's looking cases for benchmarking.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think maybe what we can do offline after this is see what you're benchmarking against, and then we can compile a report and a case study.
Wonderful. And the final question is seven. We have what do you believe? What is the preferred destination for the Europeans? Would you believe that there is a preferred destination for the Europeans?
Yeah, I mean, we outlined this before. Oh, sorry.
Mm-hmm. One
And
slide.
I mean, I have a longer list, but you can see that Younger Adventures Colombia is the number one. I have the top 5 in each of these, and I can share this as well. But certainly the millennials are going more towards Brazil. Families, we're seeing Costa Rica being quite a hot ticket at the moment and has been for a good few years. I don't know if it's the number one in terms of volume, but it's certainly the one that they're looking at the moment. We did on this research as well, we also looked at what people are searching for. So this is, it's not necessarily what people are spending, but also what they're looking for now for planning their trips in the next year or two. So, so it's probably a little bit more insightful than saying, okay, last year was number one, but actually, you know, we're seeing Costa Rica being, for some reason, on the top searches for people aged 35 to 44. And then for the slightly older people, Argentina is certainly there's more interest in that. I would say Uruguay as well is getting up there in terms of that age group, people looking for their breaks too. But I can share a top 5, if not a top 10 as well with the audience.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. We are on time. Appreciate your time, Joshua. We are very happy to working together. And thanks for our assistant for your time. And we are sharing the presentation in our social media this Friday. And if you have any additional question or comments, please send an email for Joshua or me. We are very happy in this new step. We created a new portfolio to grow in Europe. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you.